Reef. Is that what I'm driving?
Whoa, nice car, man.
Yeah, it gets me from A to B. Oh, darn. All this horsepower and no room to gallop.
The clip you just saw was from the 2003 movie Bruce Almighty. And here is the 124 scale model version of it made by Motormax. The 2004 Saleen S7. Welcome to Imperial Diecast, and today I'm going to tell you a story about how a decade before John Hennessy became famous, there was another called Steve Saleen, and how his small company, otherwise known for tuning Mustangs and Camaros, ended up making America's first forgotten hypercar. Now, one thing you'll notice about American supercars is that most of them are front-engined, while European supercars are all over the place. From front-engined Astons over mid-engined Lambos to rear-engined Porsches. Since the road-going Ford GT wasn't a thing until 2004, the Saleen S7 was America's third mid-engined production supercar, coming after the Vector W8 and M12. Again, cool American supercars most people have sadly forgotten about. The reason why I bought the Saleen S7 is because this was one of the fastest cars in the world, and in this video I'm going to explain to you why and how. But first let's take a look at this car. I mean, while designing it, you can see that Steve Saleen was inspired by the McLaren F1. Especially the headlights and taillights look very similar to it, but the body doesn't, as the body instead looks more like it was inspired by the CLK GTR. And this is also a car that has not one, but two trunks, one at the front and a small one in the rear. Now, this car is available in orange metallic as well, and Motormax also makes this car in 1/18 scale, again, silver, and orange metallic, and the orange metallic one in 1/18 scale has a bright interior. And from what I understand, in 1/18 scale, 3 other colors are available. Red, which JMC Porsche has reviewed, black, and a somewhat rare white. The major differences between this 124 scale and the 118 scale version are that on the 118 you can also open the rear trunk. You can also lift the rear engine cover glass, and the wheels come with brake discs and brake calipers, although the calipers rotate with the disc, which looks really funny. But apart from that, there are basically no differences whatsoever, so for my 118 scale viewers out there, consider this 124 scale review the same as the review for the 118 scale, while keeping the differences that I mentioned earlier in mind. And remember, if you want to own a Saleen S7 with opening parts, Motormax is really the only manufacturer that makes them, because they make it in both 124 and 118 scale, and other manufacturers like Maisto, Burago, Rastar, Veli, Norev, Mini Champs, etc. do not make it. Apart from Hot Wheels also makes the Saleen S7, but it's actually not better in quality than the Motormax because the front and the back do not open on the Hot Wheels for some strange reason. So getting hold of a Saleen S7 is really only possible through Motormax, and Motormax also makes a 112 scale version, which is quite interesting looking. The only premium manufacturer that makes the Saleen S7 in 118 is Top Marques, which used to cost around 200 euros a couple of years ago, but now they're ridiculously hard to find, first of all, and secondly, nothing opens on them, because it is a resin model. But returning to this one, I suggest, without any further ado, let's get started with the review. So, looking at the front, I think the first thing you'll notice is that this car has two huge air scoops, one on the hood and one on the roof. And while I'm reviewing this car, I'm also going to tell you that I did several modifications to this car in the form of simply taking a black marker and coloring in all the various vents that this car has, because the 124 scale model unfortunately does not come with painted vents. So I colored these two vents black and they look pretty realistic now. The headlights do not have any pegs in them, at least not dead center, so that's kind of good. But again, they do suffer from the same Motormax milky glass sort of problem, in the sense that you can see the headlight glass is tinted blue a little bit, just like the windshield, and with Maistos or Buragos you get perfectly clear glass, so. We got the Saleen logo, which is three-dimensional, but it's not as detailed as I would like it to be. Going further down, you can see that this car already starts with lots of vents at the very front, and you do get some kind of a grille pattern here, but it's not particularly well done. And this car comes with a hood that opens. And you can see inside that, being a supercar and all that, it doesn't have much space, but it looks alright. So let's just close the hood and move on to the rest of the car. And here's a look at the side of the car, and you can tell just how, aerodynamic it looks. I mean, just look at it. It's very low to the ground, and it looks like it's made to go very fast. Again, plenty more vents on the side. And the real car is also pretty lightweight because it weighs only 1,300 kilograms. And of course, it's rear-wheel drive. And here's a close-up of the car's side vents, which I painted. And you can see just what kind of a difference it makes after you paint them compared to just, leaving them unpainted. Same goes for this part here. I extended the black trim around the windows to also go around the rear vent glass. What I also like is that, despite it being a 124 scale Motormax, it comes with side window glass. And here's a close-up of the rims. Again, don't expect too much detail on a 124 scale Motormax, so we don't have any brake discs or brake calipers, unfortunately. But, they do their job. And here's a look at the back ones as well. And here at the back of the car, you can see again just how similar it looks to the tail end of the McLaren F1. Again, we got a lot of vents, and you can see that it says S7, Saleen, down below. It's got quad exhausts, and in between we have a license plate, which also tells you the year that this car is from, which is 2001. What I like about these taillights is that, first of all, they don't have any pegs in them, unlike the 118 version. And they're also colored glass, so it's pretty nice. Now, moving further up, you can see that this car has got a spoiler. And it rests pretty flat against the back of the car. One flaw that this 124 scale Saleen S7 has is that if you look at its spoiler, it's actually not attached to the car body where it is supposed to be, and is instead, as I said, very flat. So, I think this is a mistake. But yeah. You've got these vents up here. And moving even further along, you can see that on the rear glass, or the rear windshield, you can see into the engine. And this is probably the most interesting part about the car, because this is a 7-liter naturally aspirated overhead valve V8 producing 550 horsepower at 6,400 RPM with a top speed of about 350 kilometers per hour and capable of going from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.3 seconds. The reason I say this is interesting is because there's actually two versions of this engine. In 2005, the engine was upgraded with twin turbochargers, increasing the output to 750 horsepower and the top speed to a staggering 399 kilometers per hour. Way faster than 90% of supercars made until even today, overtaking the world-famous McLaren F1 from the 1990s, and in fact bringing it within a few digits of the top speeds of the Bugatti Veyron and the Koenigsegg CCX, which is, of course, an ancient Koenigsegg, just as a reminder about which manufacturer is the king of top speeds. Here's the catch. There is no proof of the Saleen S7 reaching its top speed. Then again, there is no proof of any Koenigsegg reaching its top speed either, although the Agera RS did go over 457 kilometers per hour. But returning to the Saleen S7, there is proof of how fast this car goes, and a YouTube video I would recommend is to watch Super Speeders Rob taking his S7 twin turbo to over 240 miles per hour, which is over 386 kilometers per hour. I mean, this is a car from the mid-2000s, having a twin turbo variant that could go almost 400 kilometers per hour, and it went completely under the radar, especially compared to how much media buzz Hennessy's Venom GT caused a few years ago. That's why I consider the Saleen S7 America's forgotten hypercar. And one more thing about the engine, this is just a flat piece painted completely silver by Motormax. So what I did was I took a black marker and colored in all these grooves, I guess you can call them, to just give the engine a little bit more depth. Not the best job, of course, but it still looks better than just everything being colored silver. And I also highlighted the three-dimensional Saleen branding. And here's a look at the car's mirrors. I think they look pretty alright. And here's a look at the car's top profile. Now this looks very good. Furthermore, we have an antenna over here. It's even got some detail on the antenna itself. Now let's move on to the interior of the car, and to do that, let's open the doors first. And what I like about these doors is that they open like this, and these are called butterfly doors. They open up the same way as they do on the SLR McLaren or the McLaren F1. So moving on to the passenger side of the interior, you can see that the interior of this car is quite cramped. It is a race car at the end of the day. I mean, a road-going race car. And I have to say that on this 124 scale version, nothing is painted. So the interior that you're seeing here is actually something that I did myself when I took a little bit of gray paint and silver paint and just highlighted the details to make it look a little bit more realistic. In the middle you can see the 6-speed manual, as well as a little instrument panel with analog gauges. And I have colored the seats gray to highlight their shape. And now let's move on to the other side. So, going to the driver's side of the interior, you can again see that I highlighted the airbag of the steering wheel, although I'm not sure that this car does have airbags. And behind the steering wheel you can see that it also has a gauge cluster, although we don't even have a sticker on them, so all I did was just put in a little bit of white paint, because on the real car I think that the instrument panel also has white color. But you don't really buy this Motormax for the interior. The main reason why I bought it is because it's a unique car and the exterior looks pretty good. The front wheels of this car swivel from side to side, although the steering wheel does not really correspond to it. I mean, it barely moves. And now let's take a look at the bottom of the car to get an idea of what the undercarriage looks like. And you can see that it says Saleen S7, scale 124, made in China, used under license. And you can also see that we have a lot of riveting going on down here. At the back, we get an idea of what the rear diffuser looks like. And I'd say that's about it. And that's what I gotta say about the Saleen S7. I hope you guys liked this review. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.